This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm very excited to be speaking with Mina Sundwall about The Graduates. How are you, Mina?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Can you tell me what attracted you to this role and the project in general?
Yeah, immediately the scripts really and talking to Hannah Peterson, our writer and director. Um, I think when we think about a lot of the conversation around gun violence, it centers for the most part on the immediate and that 24-hour headline that happens afterwards. And it really affected me that Hannah cares so much and really wanted to focus on the aftermath of that, which I feel like often gets forgotten. And talking about these characters and the grief and the trauma that they're going through, we start a year after it's happened. And I think that's really what just immediately really stuck out to me.
Having hesitation about dealing with this because it's a very sort of touchy subject matter?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I think when you're talking about things that are this personal and delicate and prevalent today, there is that thought when you're reading a script about it. But immediately when I talked to Hannah and I saw what she wanted to do with the movie and how she handled the script, she immediately relieved me of all that.
What did you relate to most about Genevieve as a character?
A couple things. I think when we were filming it, she and I were very similar ages, and she's at the end of high school. She's thinking about what to do with college and that next step of her life. And I had just gone through that experience, and I was in that kind of next step of my life of being an adult for the first time. And so I related to the feelings and the changes that she was going through. And then on top of that, just really admired her for the way that she handled herself and this situation and everything that she's, talking about and going through and how she's handling everything.
Is there anything that was particularly challenging about her?
Yeah, I think, I won't, there's nothing in my life that I can really directly compare to what she's been through. And it's a very unique experience to be a young person and witness something that is that traumatic, especially in a place where you're supposed to feel safe. And so I think the challenging part more was just a learning experience to honor that in the best way that I could and a lot of listening and learning.
It was also a learning experience for Hannah since it's her first feature film, but I know
Yeah.
you've, even in your short career so far, have worked with a lot of directors. What was it like working with her?
I love Hannah. I love Hannah so much, and I want to work with her for the rest of my life. And I tell her all the time. It was such a special experience, and she really created this supportive and loving energy on set that they're really, we loved each other a lot, and it was very close the entire time we were filming. And I think you see that in the movie a lot, the care that she brought every day. And I think she's a really beautiful filmmaker, and she has a lot of really good ideas, and I loved every second.
Know that the film has screened at some festivals and is coming out soon. What audiences have you had a chance to see it with?
I saw it in DC, and then we did Tribeca last year, and so I watched it with some of the Tribeca audiences, which is very, very cool. I grew up in New York, so Tribeca is like a very exciting experience.
Definitely is very underappreciated. I definitely like it too.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you find that the reactions were different based on where it was, those two screenings?
Yeah, I think that the conversations that it sparks are different depending on who's seeing the movie, and people relate to different parts of it. And, you know, some audiences were more focused on the topic of conversation. Some audiences were more focused on the filmmaking and the characters. But generally, there was a similar kind of consensus.
Anything surprising that anyone said to you or asked in Q&As?
Oh, that's interesting. Surprising in particular, I think when I was thinking of the movie coming out, anything was going to be a surprise because I don't really know what to expect with a movie that's this personal. So all reactions have been a surprise. Um, I think one thing in particular, someone was asking us about like our most joyous moments on set, which is a question that I really appreciate because of how the movie feels. I loved talking about that, I think, when you get that question of like what was the most, the part that you connected with the other castmates the most and things like that. I think those conversations were not surprising, but like the ones that I really loved in particular.
And you mentioned also there were people, some people were focused on the filmmaking. Did it
Yeah.
feel very technical or just people who like go to festivals and really are hyper active looking for these kinds of things?
I think, yeah, it was like the artistry of the filmmaking and Hannah, just the tone of the movie and the feeling of it and the camera work. It was a mix of the technical people who are interested in the technical side of it, but also just, the experience of the casting to where we filmed and how long it took and all those kinds of things. Yeah, that was mostly, I think, at Tribeca, people who love movies and love to go see them and talk about movies. And I'm that way too. So that was also very exciting for me to get to talk about.
This experience of this film was different from a lot of what you've done in your career.
Yes, I think every experience that I've had from project to project has been pretty different. This was one of the first movies that I did as an adult completely on my own. It's kind of since being 18 and like not having my parents with me. And we filmed in Utah, so moving to a new place for the time that we filmed. Um, so yes, but I think every movie has its own specific feel and experience to it.
Is there any advice you'd give to young actors or actresses, or to your younger self about, what you might do differently or suggest for people trying to start out in the industry?
Yeah, I think keep doing it. It is really difficult and the times are changing right now, and it can be hard to try and think what the right answer is. But keep doing it. And if you love it and you're crazy enough to want to do it every day forever, then it's really about, remembering that every time something doesn't go your way or every time you get a no. And also watch everything. Watch all of the movies. They're everywhere. We have this unlimited history of film. Watch everything and know what you love and focus on what you love to do.
I do want to ask you about some of your past projects and your own taste, but before we move
Yeah.
away from this film, is there anyone you think would particularly benefit from seeing it, like more than someone else?
Oh, that's honestly, I think everybody benefits seeing something like this. I really, really believe that seeing movies that expand your worldview of the human experience in some way is important. Um, and I think that this does that because of how much Hannah focused on the part that gets forgotten oftentimes of this experience and what these people, and particularly young people, go through. And so I think that it doesn't really have one specific audience. Different people can relate to it in different ways, and everybody can, learn something and feel something.
I think it's a good companion piece to The Fallout, which I'm not sure
Yeah.
if you've seen a couple of years, not to be confused with the, video game
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
But that's a great genre transition into the first project I saw you in, which is Lost in Space,
Yeah.
which obviously there's so much pressure, I think, getting, had you seen the original, or more importantly, had your parents or other family members seen the original, had lots of expectations that you felt like you needed to fulfill for that?
Yeah, so I watched the original after I booked the project. My parents had not seen it originally, and so we all watched it together, which was a very cool experience. And then, being able to be a family watching that, and then as a family go and filming the next one was very fun. But immediately when you start watching that show, you realize what big shoes you have to fill and how creative and kind of different every episode was. And yeah.
I was really impressed by it. Do you feel like it went over well with fans, or people were sort of beholden to the original and not necessarily open-minded?
Thank you. I think it went over very well. I think especially by the end of the show, we began to win over some of the fans that were skeptical in the beginning. But I also completely understand the skepticism because when you have something that you love and it gets turned into a different version of it, I can understand the feeling of being attached to that first thing. But I still love it, and I am very grateful for all of the people that also love it.
And those fans obviously were optimistic enough to stick with it, that they
Yeah.
were waiting, but yeah. Well, you were also part of Legends of Tomorrow, which I think is such a itself a big part of a much much greater, extended universe, etc. And
Mhm.
Dominic Purcell especially was just a fun and very humorous character on that show. What was your experience like just being such part of such a huge franchise like that?
It was so great. And I had the best time on that show. And they had already been doing it for seasons, but I was immediately welcomed into this group of people who were so lovely and so much fun to work with every day. And the show is so fun and crazy and all over the place that it's really never a bad day on set. I didn't have one day that was boring. Definitely. I never had a boring day.
I suppose based on those two, big TV launch pads, I should be surprised to see you in something that doesn't involve some sort of science fiction, where you see it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
broken out
Me
from any sort
too.
of typecasting, which is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, do you have an idea of what's next for you? Are you working on other projects? I know this has been out, this film has been done for a while.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I do. I have been on the development side of this world for the last year and a bit, and there's not very much that I can talk about, but I did start a production company that I'm very excited about and very excited to start teaming up with other filmmakers who are as passionate about these kinds of projects as I am.
Great, awesome. Well, since this is Awards Buzz, we always like to ask whoever I'm talking to, what have you seen recently, a film, a show, or performance that really strikes you as awards worthy?
Yes, I saw there's a movie called Nickel Boys that I think is phenomenal, and I think the filmmaking is amazing. The performances are phenomenal, and I think the whole thing together just creates this experience that is like really shakes you to your core, and is also a movie that you learn a lot while watching the movie. And that has since I saw it, it's really stuck with me.
Have you seen the director's documentary, Hale County, this evening?
I haven't yet, but it's on my watch list. I'm very excited for it.
I think that's probably closer to the pacing maybe of, The Graduates than something like Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
well, that's wonderful. I really appreciate you taking some time to speak with me and wish you plenty of luck with your production company and everything in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me. I appreciate it. Have a great day.